Hey, budding lawyers, welcome to the podcast. Today, we are going to have a chat with Ms. Mishika Singh. She is an independent legal practitioner and founder of a legal aid nonprofit named Neeb. We also have Ditambra Kalra with us today as a co host. And welcome to the show, Mishika. What's up?
Thank you, Prasanna. Thank you for having me. And hi, Ditambra.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Mishika.
So, Mishika, I've been following you on LinkedIn for like many months, and you have some interesting posts. Recently, I read about something. You went to the court, and you just have to take a date, and because the judge was not there in the courtroom, like he was on leave or something like that. So these are some incidents, which young lawyers specifically come across, and it's quite funny sometimes, but it's also sad sometimes because the clients come all the way from especially in Supreme Court and all, they come from states like Kerala and stuff, and then if they come to the court and get a date just because the judge is on leave or something like that, it's quite disheartening. But we'll talk about those things too. Let's start with your career, like from the law school itself. Please tell us something about your law school days, like which subjects did you like the most in your law school, and how was your law school life in general?
Little background, I did my law for actually 3 years. Before that, I did journalism. And I actually wanted to be a journalist because I thought, writing is very powerful. The pen is mightier than the sword, sort of a thing. But while I was interning, I realized that's not the case. So I switched to law because, again, I wanted to do some work which has some impact. So I did 3 years of law from Faculty of Law. And this has been long back. And I think my favorite subjects, if you think about it, honestly, I had 5 subjects every semester, and for 1 or 2 semesters, we didn't even have teachers properly for the subjects. So I don't think I honestly studied all the subjects. But I think my favorite would be jurisprudence. I really like the study of law, the origin of all these theories that we have, and I think that's something that really interested me. And initially, everyone was like, criminal law is what they want to do, and everyone was about IPC, CRPC, evidence. But for me, it was always criminology and jurisprudence. I think I just like the idea of studying in depth of where things are coming from and how things are originating. Apart from that, I don't think I had any favorite subjects per se.
Mishika, jurisprudence is one of the subjects I think every law student hates. Like, I was worst at it. It was so boring.
I was going to say
It was
that
But I
because
also had,
most I dislike subject in my class as well.
yes.
Yeah, it was an elective for us, and hardly any people opted for it. Whoever did also ended up
Oh, it
leaving
was
it
an
midway and
elective in
switched
your
to another
college.
subject. I think so. I did law so long back that I can't even remember. But yeah,
When did
that's what
you
I remember. That
graduate, by the way?
2014. So it's been a while.
14.
Yeah.
I'm also 2017 pass out, by the way.
So
Yeah,
3 years
same.
Which
later,
is,
I would have done another
which
degree in
is,
that time.
sure. And also, I wanted to ask, like everybody says, CLC is one of those colleges where it teaches you practical skills. Like if you want to be a lawyer, go to CLC. How true is that?
I think
At least
CLC
one
only
of the
teaches you.
professors.
I think, see, honestly, I think it prepares you for litigation because there's a lot of hustle. Like you have to hustle to, get your admission done in time. Then professors that are actually good, their classes are overflooding. So sometimes what used to happen that if we had a very good teacher, but before their lecture, there was some other lecture. So by the time we got to our classroom for the good teacher lecture, other students would already come and take those seats. And there was a lot of annoyance and fighting happening because of that. Because out of 5 subjects, you would get definitely one good teacher. If you were lucky, you'd get two good teachers. Otherwise, I would say it was mostly on what you would make of it. And law faculty, like every batch, CLC had like 900,000 students. And I think by the time you get to third year, around 700 graduates. But a lot of them were there only because they got good ranks, so they could get the hostel in the university. And they were preparing for other competitive exams, civils and all. So not everyone was
Right.
motivated by law. The age group was also different. Some people came right after 3 years of whatever course they done, or 4 years or 5 years, depending on where they were coming from. But there were a lot of people who were in their 50s, 60s, people with, sometimes they would come with their children and sit outside class and see whatever notes they could take. So it was a very worldly experience, so to say. I think it preps someone for litigation, definitely. There's so much hustle for everything. I think it's a good starting ground to just prepare you for a life of a lot of movement and a lot of hustle bustle all the time.
I think this is a experience which almost all law school students get, like especially those who are not into NLUs, like their students and their teachers have like very less age gap most of the time. Like many students have that.
Yeah, on my first day, what happened? So we didn't know this, right? So on the first day, you went and you sat, and every time an older person entered, you'd all stand up.
Good
And then you're like,
morning,
they're also one of the
teacher.
students. So initially, it was quite entertaining for us to be able to figure out only who's the teacher, who's the student. But yeah,
So how is
good
it
times.
that different? Like I always thought somebody who has done their graduation in one subject and then they opt for law, I always thought they would be more serious about law. Like for people who did 5 years like me, everyone just went into it and they were just figuring it out, like exploring. I always thought somebody who did CLC other thing 3+3, they would be more serious, at least about the subject. Like they want to do law per se. Like,
I think that's for
is
all
that
the
true?
graduation. Like in 12th, you don't really know what's happening. So it's only when you do
Correct.
whatever you do in your graduation. Like so many of my friends did engineering and now they're doing event management and some creative things because you just jump into graduation not really thinking what you want to do with life. It's mostly like what do I want to do next? What is my interest? That sort of a thing. So theoretically, yeah, you're correct that people who theoretically who have come to law fact should have been more serious about law. But I wouldn't say so. Like there was just I think just a part of that audience which was there for the study of law. Like I said, there were a lot of people who were already working in other things or were just at home. There were
Preparing for
retired
exams,
people in
like you
our
were
class.
saying.
So it was more like developing a skill set for them and maybe just study something new, but not like the intent of practicing every time.
So, like you must graduated like what at like 2014 at 24, you were finished with law.
I graduated
Then
when I was
you
23. Yes.
23, right? So you stepped into litigation
I
or
did.
no?
I joined a
You
firm
you
initially.
always knew you wanted to do litigation.
Yeah, I was very sure about what kind of work I want to do and how I want to do it. So when I started with law, I knew that 5 years of PQA and I want to do something of my own. I want to set up my own organization, the kind of work I wanted to do. But those 5 years, I had to figure out how to build that for myself. So I started with a firm, then I switched to a chamber practice. And then I started out my own practice actually quite early, along with my other things that I was doing, like even while in employment. Like in the chamber practice, I had the option to take up my own cases if I had the time. So as early as
Hmm.
2016, I started taking my own case. Actually, 2015 August, I took my first independent case. So it's
Like
been a
when
long time, and then I
I
kept
was
building
working
on
with a
it.
firm. Hmm. I think your firm was really nice. When I was working with a firm, like there was an embargo. Like you cannot take, you can take up cases, but then you will have to devote more time with the firm, which is always a thing of clash. Because I think everybody who steps into litigation wants to set up their own thing, like at some point at least.
Yeah, like in litigation, I think that's usually the end goal. Because if you're building for someone, might as well be that someone.
Build for
You're
yourself.
constantly building a practice, networking, clients, all of these things. So I think it's a good idea to eventually look at setting up your own practice. But I do also understand that I come from a place of a lot of privilege. My family is in Delhi. So it was easier for me to decide, okay, I can struggle for some time because at least I don't have to pay rent. My 3 meals are taken care of, and my clothes are getting washed. So that urgency to earn money, so to say, could have been dispensed with in my case. But I don't think a lot of people have those kind of privileges. So even though the thought is there, but I'm conscious that I was quite lucky to be able to do what I wanted to do, and that's all thanks to the privileges that I just stated. And not everyone can be in that
That's
situation. So I
good.
understand why in litigation also jobs are important. And I saw this around COVID, and a lot of people were, at least in chamber practice and all, they were let off, and they couldn't afford to stay in Delhi because even in any case, litigation doesn't pay a lot when you're starting out. Um, Even for the next
Correct.
3 4 years, it doesn't pay much. So you're just making ends meet sort of thing. And when something like COVID happens, it makes you realize that you need constant money to be coming into your
Stable
account to be
money.
able to sustain yourself in a city which is not your primary city. It's not a city of your residence primarily. So that way, I think the desire may be there, but I think only the lucky few may be able to implement, things to get to that end goal.
But I think with that desire, like you said, at least firms pay you well enough to have that stable income. But like you said, chamber practice, it does not pay you at all. You cannot make anything meet. Like you will have to find your own clients to sustain yourself. I think that's with privilege, that's somehow a necessity also. Because chamber
Definitely.
practices pay you nothing. So like
That's true.
what was your vision with the organization? How you I also you are empaneled with Delhi High Court Legal Services Committee. What is the process for getting empaneled with Delhi High Courts?
Okay, so the Delhi High Court has a legal services committee. You have to be enrolled for, I think, 5 years to qualify, and then there's 10 years. So they have different panels. There's civil, criminal, and there's mediation, and now they have matrimonial separately. I think it started this time only. And once you apply through a form which has basic details. Then they shortlist you for an interview, and the interview is usually done by a sitting judge and a senior advocate. And if you clear that, you're on the panel. It's a fairly simple process. It takes a lot of time. Like I applied in March of 2021 and my final appointment was around Christmas of 2021. So 9 months of, things.
So I've also heard like people need jacks to get empaneled with that. How true is that?
I didn't have a jack, so I don't know. Maybe again, I just got lucky. I don't know. But if I would have used a jack, then I would have a better idea whether it works or not. But I'm a first generation lawyer. I have no jack.
Yeah, and no one will disclose if he or she has used the jack or to get at that place, right, Ramra? Not on
Yeah,
not
probably.
publicly.
See, I don't know anyone who's categorically told me that, this is how I got it. So, but there may be something like that. Like I can't say it because I don't know how the first form that you fill out has basic details, like, or your details of your degree and all. And after that, I would think that everyone gets shortlisted for the interview. You have to upload 2 orders of the High Court. So maybe there's something that I don't know. But yeah, again, like the JAT situation, I don't have any JAT to use, so I can't comment on that.
So when did you start with the organization Neeb? Like what was your vision with it? You're already empaneled. Like why do you like there are organizations like Delhi High Court Legal Services Committee, then there are organizations like DLSA. Like why did you think there's still a need for an organization like Neeb?
Um, Okay, let me take those questions one by one. The organization we started in 2020, so it's been a while. And we recently got funded by Azim Premji. Before that, we were making ends meet on our own and just a group of passionate lawyers and non-lawyers and social workers coming together and wanting to do something good. That is how we started. So the organization is now 2 years old. My empanelment happened, like it started this year only. So I was already knee deep or neck deep or head deep or however deep I was in the organization and the empanelment happened. And to come to your last question about why is there a need, the need is we do community work. The idea of the social justice lawyering, the kind of work that we're doing is to make justice accessible. And justice accessible is at different stages. So, you need legal awareness, you need someone to provide you legal aid, and that person also has to be accessible. So, the place that we work, from there, for someone to even come to High Court for a matter is a big deal, just to figure out how to get there. Firstly, they don't have that kind of awareness about their rights are getting violated. So if you don't know what your rights are, how do you ascertain what's getting violated? So I think the need for legal aid is always going to be there in our country. I think law is never taught in schools. Unless you opt for law as your higher education, you don't know about even basic laws. Like, I know well-educated women who don't know about miscarriage law or the policies that their company should have. And these are educated people. So unless it hits home, no one really makes an effort. And when it does, the first thing they do is Google it. But the community that we are working in, has those one phone for 5 people in the family. If the bed owner is going out to earn, the phone stays at home just in case someone needs to contact. So obviously they're not going to Google that, this has happened and what are my options. So there's a need to be going out in the community and helping people understand what their rights are. So at least they have knowledge of where they can go if their rights are getting violated, or even to understand if their rights are getting violated or not. So I think, for organizations like Neeb, the need is always going to be there.
Also, you were
Like,
saying that when you were in law school itself, you had started working on the organization. Can you go a bit deeper into that?
So I hadn't started working on the organization. I had an idea of what I wanted to do. And throughout college, I used to do only like legal workshops here and there if I got some time, but that was mostly negligible. But since 2016, I started conducting these legal awareness workshops. I would go to low-income communities. I would collaborate with NGOs, or just get the domestic helps in one area of, let's say, one society or one sector in Noida, something like that, and just give them basic knowledge about, okay, what is an FIR? How can you get an FIR done? What happens if you're not able to file an FIR? What is the different kind of abuses under domestic violence? So I started building on that since 2016. But the idea was to get to a place where I can also provide legal aid, because going for a session and um, explaining the law is different. And actually taking up someone else's case is much different. You need to be committed financially because they are unable to pay. You need to be committing your time for it, knowing that, they're not in a position to pay. So that was only later that I started being able to even afford that kind of luxury, that I can take someone else's case and not charge them for it. But I think, individuals always have a limitation. Like if I was just doing this on my own, I wouldn't have an Azim Premji funding me. They wouldn't be like, okay, Mishika, well done. Let's give you a lot of money. It doesn't work like that. So you need an organization to sort of have a structure to the kind of things that you want to do. And I honestly believe that if you have a good team, you can do much more wonderful work than you can do just alone.
Of
Of
course.
course, there's a bunch of ideas that are coming in, but everyone comes with a different skill set. I may be very good at in court, but someone may be very good at engaging with the community. Another person may be very good at approaching sensitive matters in a particular way, which skill set maybe I don't have, and I can only develop by working with them. So that was the sort of trajectory that the organization has seen. But the cementing happened. I came back from my master's around 2019. And of course, at that time, all the protests and the CA and detentions and all were happening. So my work started with helping people who are getting detained. So basically, to say that if you're getting detained, these are your rights, irrespective of what your political ideology is. You're a citizen of the country, so your rights are going to be there. Now, you may be protesting for the right thing, for the wrong thing. You may like CA, and you may reject CA. Whatever it is, you still have your rights. So the idea was to be protecting those rights, and then we were working on ground. A group of lawyers, just an informal collective, started going to protest and seeing if people are getting detained, and just we would send out information saying, if you're going for this protest, these are the 10 things you should remember. These are your duties, these are your rights, what to do in case you're getting detained, what to do in case the police ask for your phone. Just general information, because a lot of the people who were out in the streets were young students. And these young students, again, the Josh is there, the Jazba is there, but the knowledge is not there. So with your Josh and Jazba, you also need to have the knowledge of, if something goes wrong, how can I get some help, or what are my rights, or what are my duties? So that's how we started. Unfortunately, in 2020 February, we saw the riots that happened in Delhi. And immediately after that, the Delhi government announced the compensation scheme. So major work of ours started around that time, and we started helping people to access that compensation that the Delhi government had announced. They didn't announce any procedure. They didn't announce any, what documents they needed, nothing. So these people who were already, in an area where they didn't have a lot of knowledge, or they were just going on with their lives, suddenly there are riots. They've lost their shops, they've lost their houses, some people have lost their lives, limbs, there's injuries, bullet injuries that people have sustained. Now they've been told, okay, you can get compensation and this is the scheme. But they don't know where to go, how to file, what's the form, how to fill that form. So we set up camps in that area. A lot of collectives came together to set up these camps, and we helped around, like the camp that not Neeb, this is a collective of various other lawyers that was there. Neeb didn't exist at that point in time. Was set up, and we helped around 400 people just file their forms. If they have to file an FIR, and just write the complaint, go to the police, tell them that take 2 copies, get a stamp or DDI number on the Xerox that you have. So just these things we started doing. Then again, unfortunately, COVID happened. So during COVID, obviously the problems the people were facing were much different. It wasn't about their compensation or their rights. It was about, roti kapra. and makan. They didn't have a place to stay. They didn't have food to eat, and we thought we'll provide them with dry ration. They're like, the house is burnt. Like, where do you cook this dry ration, this dal and chawal that you were sending for us? So it sort of shifted in terms of the work that we were doing. Around June, May, June, things started settling a bit. And in June, we filed our first compensation. So by June, Neeb was very much there. And we filed the first case for claiming compensation in the Delhi High Court. And July is when we got formally registered as a, that has been the trajectory. And, the work sort of was tailor-made for us. Now, of course, we're doing a bunch of other things. We're working with the rights of Muslim women. We're working a lot on domestic violence. We're helping with a lot of social entitlement camps in that area. So we held more than 2, 3 Aadhaar card camps where people can get their Aadhaar cards made, updated. There are a lot of laborers in that area, so we're helping them get the labor cards made so that they can access the schemes that have been announced by the government. Because otherwise, when you look at a labor card, now the laborer is supposed to upload a photo which is 10 kb in a PDF. Which laborer is going to know what 10 kb is and what PDF is? The other option that they have is that they go to, these cyber cafe people, they charge whatever they want. If things happen, they happen. If they don't, they have no one to complain to. Because the Delhi government has a helpline where you call and they come to your house and do these things. But again, there's sort of a mistrust because of things that are outside your vicinity per se, like which are not physically tangible. So for them, it's easier to go to a cyber cafe and get duped there than trust an automated phone thing which can help them get their labor card made. So those are the kind of things that we doing now. So it's mostly working with that community and making sure that the community gets uplifted because of the kind of work we do.
So the Neev as an organization completely doing pro bono work.
Yeah.
Right. And you recently mentioned that you've also got funding with Azim Premji. How did that happen for you? Like, how is
so much of work,
making it?
Ritambra. So much of work. She told you just now. She was speaking at a stretch for around 10
People
minutes.
Notice the work. People notice the work. Someone connected us to Azim Premji. We spent 8-9 months speaking to them. And I think they had some faith in the work that we're doing and the fact that we can do better if we have a funding in place. That's how it happened.
So this is how you paid your first salary, I guess? The post you had wrote?
Yes. That is how finally on 1st of October, my first salary from Neeb Foundation for Legal Aid came. And I can't tell you, I think it was one of the highest points in my life till date. So yeah, it was quite good. Like still, I'm talking about it, it's giving me goosebumps right now. It was very emotional moment for me. In fact, the day I got the call for the funding also, it was around 8 or 9 in the morning, and I was just having a late morning. So I woke up and I got a call, and I thought it would be one of those things that, okay, you have to fill this form or something. And they're like, oh, how are you and what's happening? Oh, by the way, congratulations. You have been granted the fund. And, before they could finish the sentence, I just started crying. And after that, my husband was sleeping. So after the call, I just went to him and I was trying to shake him. So he turned around and just saw me crying in the morning. And he's like, is everything okay? Are you fine? I'm like, no, I'm just very happy. He's like, what has happened? Like, can you please tell me? So yeah, like I think Azim Premji has given me some really good milestones and moments in my life. Like even when the funding came, it was we were working hard towards it, but still when you actually cinch the deal, it's a different feeling altogether. It's like acknowledgement that the work you're doing actually does have some impact. It's not just you wanting to pursue your own dreams. You're actually alongside being able to help other people.
And how does this funding thing works, like the process, and how many types of fundings are there? Can you just elaborate on that?
So Azim Premji usually looks at organizations which have been there for 3 years or more. The first time I got in touch with them, we were not even a year old. But I just dropped a line saying, hello, we are doing this work. Please give us money, sort of a thing. That didn't get taken up, but eventually Azim Premji was looking to support some young organizations working in this social legal field, sort of a thing. And that's how the conversation started. Someone who had volunteered at the camp that I had mentioned, we'd set up right after the riots for the compensation form. Someone had volunteered over there and they connected us to someone at Azim Premji. and one thing led to the other. So
Hmm.
this is not a regular process of funding that they had. We are their pilot project. They selected some 5, 6 organizations, and we are one of them.
And you
Young
had applied to
organizations.
multiple such organizations for funding?
Actually, we did apply to a couple of organizations. I won't say multiple, but Prasanna, the problem is that we are all lawyers and we're looking to do some good work. So we don't know very, like, at least we didn't at that point in time know how to run an NGO. We're not people who can manage an NGO. So every time we worked on a proposal and asked us for a budget, we were ill-equipped to even think, what kind of budget we need. So it was very basic, saying, okay, 5 people, this much money, that's sort of a budget. But with Azim Premji, we actually got to list down saying, okay, salary is this much, program activities this much, travel this much, and program activities what we're looking at. If we're doing one legal awareness workshop per month, that's 12 in a year. How much are we spending per workshop? Because if we're calling the women and if there's lunch provided or something, we have to account for that. If we're publishing any material, we have to account for that. So they actually, with Azim Premji, now we're better prepared to pitch for another funding if we have to. But before that, I think we were just trying to sort of see where we stand. And a lot of learning we did only by filling out those funding forms, because they asked us the right question. So we were able to be
Hmm.
like, oh, when they're asking us, what's your plan? Like, what work have you done in the last 6 months and how it will grow in the next 2 years? It's not something we thought of. We were just like, okay, whatever work is coming, we're doing. It wasn't very planned initially. It was already there was so much work with the compensation cases and all. So I think with after Azim Premji, we definitely more prepared in terms of the budget, the program, the kind of work we want to undertake, the kind of work we don't want to do. But at that point in time, it was very like, let's see, where it takes us. It was more like learning on the go.
Okay. So can you tell us what you have in mind with respect to Neeb, and it's like what are your future plans with regards to Neeb?
I think definitely working more in the community, like at least immediate and long term goals are related to the extent that we've been in this community at least for the last 2 years. And we intend to stay till in that area, everyone knows that if they need any legal advice, this is the organization that they should go to. So that is the aim that we have. How we are getting to it is that we have these social entitlement camps that I told you that we're doing. So
Hmm.
now, earlier we used to do it ourselves, saying, okay, now you come, we will help you with this thing. Now we have started collaborating with DLSA. So the DLSA collaborates with us to set up these camps. So expansion is more about collaboration for us. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. If someone's already doing good work, we'd rather collaborate with them and sort of introduce the legal sphere to it. Like there are organizations which are working in the field of women's rights, but in terms of menstruation or in terms of hygiene or in terms of education. So we're collaborating with them to say, okay, you're already doing this work, so you already have a set audience, and we would like to introduce that audience to some legal rights. So that's how we're looking to expand by working together, because eventually, the goal is the same. The goal is to do some work which helps change someone's life for better. So I think that's what we're looking at as of now.
Is the organization working pan Delhi or any area
Yeah,
specific?
right now we're in Delhi and NCR. We have colleagues who help us with the cases which requests we get. But we get a lot of requests which are not from Delhi. So then we try and connect them to lawyers that we know over there who are working in the field of social justice. So we know their background, we know the kind of work they're doing, we know, that they're in the clients who've reached out to us are in good hands. But physically, yeah, we're in Delhi right.
And how big is the organization now?
We formally we two lawyers, one community worker, and one center coordinator. Informally, there is a bunch of other people who've helped us get to where we are. And like we have a lawyer in High Court, we have a social worker who's now just become a lawyer. We have another person who is just we got fortunate that he was in Delhi around that time. He's a lit student from Harvard who's now working in a US labor law organization. He did a bunch of good work with us. So informally, there has been a lot of people with whose support we've been able to get where we are. But formally, the team is 4 people right now.
That's something great. Like with 4 people, you have reached this at this level.
Yeah, like I said, that's just formally. Like we have one person who helps us with all our mediation cases. He's a practicing advocate in the Delhi High Court. And like I said, the other trustee that I have with me, he is doing some wonderful work. Like he's done some great work with the people in the community in the last 2 years. So it's not formally it's 4 people. Officially, that's what you will find. But informally, it's just a lot of good people who've done some really excellent work and still continue to do so.
Cool. Okay, so Mishika, how would you guide young law students who are planning, like who have something in mind regarding like creating an organization, working in the non-profit sector? And so how will you guide them? Should they start, and what mistakes you did and you would like them to avoid those things like that?
I think first and foremost, find a way that you can sustain yourself financially, because initially the organization is unlikely that it'll make money, and you need to be able to sustain yourself. Like for my case, I had my own practice, which I had while I was building Neev, and so did other people. Whoever was a part of Neev and working in the last 2 years before we got funding, they had other things going on for them, whether it was employment or whether they had their own practice, whatever it was. So I think initially you can't have money as a motivation, because you need to build some work to be able to get funding, to be able to get people to trust you, to give you any amount to sort of continue the work that you're doing. So that is one. Regarding mistakes, Prasanna, honestly, touch wood, things worked out for me. So even if I did make mistakes, I can't really say what those were and how I could have done it better, because we didn't expect that Neeb would get funding when it just turned 2 years old. So that's something that maybe I can't comment on, but definitely the things that you need to be taking care of is not give up everything to just start an organization. Another very important thing is that be very careful with the kind of people you choose to work with. You should really know where your interests lie, and if they are aligned. If you're looking at working with someone, you need to be sure that you're aligned in the same way. Your motivations are aligned, because otherwise it can lead to a lot of trouble and unpleasantness. And while you want to do good work, you don't want that to be marred by unpleasantness that's around. So I think that's just some tips that I would like to give.
Okay. Right. So over to our last question. Please share an incident from your career which is very, very memorable to you.
Good, bad, ugly. Because there are a
Anything
lot of
or
them.
all of it.
All of
See, good, I've
them.
already told you,
Yeah.
about me crying and waking up my husband when I got the funding, and I think that was definitely one of the best things that have happened in my professional life. Bad, I think, as a woman lawyer who's young, a lot of days in court are bad. And like LinkedIn has become my place where I rant about my everyday experiences. And I'm just amazed at the kind of things that happen at work. And I think one of the worst experiences that I had was something I posted about recently, was when I got to Gautam Budh Nagar, this Surajpur court for a case. And considering it's in Greater Noida, physically accessing justice is definitely a problem for Noida people. Like how do you expect them to leave everything and commute to Greater Noida when financials are a problem? So I'd gone for a pro bono matter over there. And at the gate only, I was told, strike is happening, no point going. But we didn't know anything about the case. So I had to see the file anyway. So I went inside, figured out the courtroom, tried to see the file, and then I was told by the helmet, कि आज तो लगा ही नहीं है. I said, no, online, I have to show the screenshot that it says this date. I said, हाँ, हमें जो दिन समझ आता है हम डाल देते हैं, और आपको केस का डेट तो कोर्ट से ही पता चलेगा. So I'm like, okay, but I want to see the file. So he said, you go to the record room and find out from there. So I was like, okay, where is it? He just pointed in some vague direction. So I went out of the room, like you enter from one side, you exit from the other. And over there, I met a lawyer. So I asked him, a young male lawyer. So I asked him, I said, can you please direct me, where this courtroom ka records are kept? And he said, you see that wall over there? Wahan se just take a right. So it was a half-built wall. So I said, okay. I went there, I took a right, and he directed me to a gents washroom. And after that, I was like, if I find him, I will really make sure that, this kind of behavior is very untoward. Fortunately for him, he didn't get found. Otherwise, I would have made his life a living hell. But yeah, I think that was just bizarre. And, it sort of, it it's like someone making an attempt to show you your place in court, sort of a thing. And it's really not pleasant. So now I can laugh about it. It's a funny incident that I went to in the next washroom, but at that point in time, like I was literally shaking with anger and also hurt, and also just being like that this is just not done. This is not how you treat a fellow colleague. Probably just on the basis of their gender, like sending a man to a men's washroom wouldn't be as funny for them. But yeah, I think that was definitely a highlight in a bad sense. I think that'll stay with me. And yeah, there's this one time I thought I'll get contempt, which would notice against me for one of these matters where I was engaged by this lady who had done legal aid counselors previously and was having a problem. So I went and I filed the wakalatnama in the case, and the date had already been fixed. I said, that's not a problem. Two cases, maintenance and domestic violence. So as long as you can take my wakalatnama on record, because there's some ex parte order that she wishes to challenge. So the other side lawyer is like, she's changed so many lawyers, and I said, but that's her right. She can change as many lawyers as she wants. Like, it may not be the best conduct, but it's not wrong to do that. And then the judge was like, oh, look at these new lawyers. They think they are going to stay, but they don't know. ये आज नए हैं, कल ये भी पुराने हो जाएंगे. And then she just went on and on. And लगता है नहीं सब पता है, इनकी बाकी कुछ नहीं पता है. But I had to get back to her by saying I did not make any comment about anyone's competency here. All I'm saying is I'm new on record, so please take my wakalatnama. And I was like, like with all due respect, it was a lady judge. I said, with all due respect, please do not make these personal comments because I have not said anything to that effect. She just looked at me, she's like, Thand rakh. Like, okay, this is, and I should just actually Thand rakh and just shut up and, get my wakalatnama instead of getting out of the court and dismissed like that. So, yeah, that was, like I said, it's very part and parcel, the bad things, but the good things I already told you about. So that's more important. That's what I think keeps me going and others also going, that you have good days and those are the ones that count.
The good outweighs the bad.
Yeah, I just
Sorry, I couldn't hear
these
either
things.
of you. There was overlap.
Sorry. I was just saying that I miss these things the most since I've left the profession. Such incidents inside the courtroom, outside the courtroom.
And you're still in the profession when you're getting to hear them, but you don't have to experience them. So it's, I think, the best that you're getting to speak to
Best of
lawyers
both
about their
worlds.
experience. But you don't have to go through that trauma of being a lawyer in Delhi at this point in time, which can be traumatic at points in time. Not always. Mostly good for me. But yeah, some days
because
are just harsh.
the courtroom thing reminded me of an incident where, like in Mumbai Sessions Court, I was obviously like a young lawyer and searching for courtrooms to attend some matter, and the courtrooms were not aligned in sequence. Okay,
That's
and
like Noida sectors. Sorry, I just had to say.
like it's like 24, 25, 26 and 56. And I'm like, where is this code? And I'm searching for 56 in the sequence, like in the 50s row, like 51, 52. And I don't know about it. And then I come to know that the courtroom is here, that you have to travel from one building to another building to attend it.
Yeah, no, maybe there's some feng shui involved. They said 56 needs to be here. That's how justice will be dispensed. So no problem at all. 56 makes sense.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mishika, for sharing your experience. And this was a great conversation. And thank you all for listening to this podcast. If you like this episode, do check out our other episodes available here and follow us here so that you don't miss out a new episode. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you for having me.
It's great talking to you.